Hello and welcome to Channel 51 News for Thursday, September 11, 2025. And it is with a heavy heart that we join you on the day that one of our own independent media, Charlie Kirk, has been assassinated. It's beyond confronting when you think that you get into independent media because, like in every other business in the world that has disruptors, you get into it because the establishment aren't doing their job properly. And who would think that you could make such a difference, that the world is divided so badly that it takes a madman to want to kill a 31-year-old man blessed with a beautiful wife and two beautiful kids, who is literally walking into a place of education to challenge the system in what education is meant to do, to debate, to be a competition of ideas. And instead, we've been blasted for years since that evil human being, Hillary Clinton, brought up the idea of fake news thanks to Georgie Soros, and they created all of those fact checkers when it was them that were failing us and weren't reporting what was out there to be reported. And today we live in a world where the science is settled, which we know is a nonsense, whether it comes to safe and effective vaccines that we know aren't. And we're now at the finals season, the grand finals season of what we've been fighting for the last 10 years. I know for one that I never thought that I would be doing independent news 10 years ago. I was posting on Facebook like everyone else. And I realized that I had a lot to say and they were getting traction pre the censorship nonsense that we have to live through. So today, my stuff doesn't get seen except by you guys that see it. I am the invisible man. And I don't say it out of anything other than I keep doing this work because someone wants it. Someone needs it. And I'm doing this work because we have been hoodwinked. And I am doing this work because all roads out of this schmozzle, this quagmire, this anti-human agenda, all of it leads to not just a better life, but infinitely gets better than what we are living with at the moment. We have been on a downward trajectory here in Australia and around the world for decades. We all know it. And yet we think that because the politicians have more power than us, even though they're the ones that are failing us, they'll somehow turn it around, turn around the Queen Mary, and somehow it'll get better. But it doesn't. All we do is get the next generation of indoctrinated puppets, compromise, probably, or certainly beholden to a system in order to get re-elected, because no one likes campaigning. I hate it. No one likes campaigning, including the politicians. So they have to take the money that pays their way to get into the system that gets them re-elected. And so you become part of that system. Professor Gigi Foster said that even if we created the perfect system, we would become corrupt because of it. It's just how it works. And that's probably why you need to turn over your politicians. But what if you didn't need more government, but less government? If you had no government, guess what that would be? Anarchy. But if you were responsible enough and could look after things, you wouldn't need any government at all, and pure anarchy would be great. But we're never going to get there, not the way we are working today. So this coverage today is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be ugly. and I'm going to scratch through and I'm going to provide you information that I have collected along the way on the lead story about the assassination of 31-year-old Charlie Kirk, and there'll be some other stories that we'll weave into today's show for you. So let's start, firstly, by the confirmation that we saw earlier from Donald Trump. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he's no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. Let's go to RFK. Once again, a bullet has silenced the most eloquent truth teller of an era. My dear friend Charlie Kirk was our country's relentless and courageous crusader for free speech. We pray for Erica and the children. Charlie's already in paradise with the angels. We ask his prayers for our country. Charlie doesn't want to be in paradise with the angels. He wants to be here with his wife and his kids and building America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, for all Americans to get to where we want to go. That's better for all of us. Meanwhile, George Tacky. I hope Charlie Kirk recovers quickly, then like James Brady uses his megaphone to help advocate for common sense limits on firearms. How's this? Stephanie Burgundy writes, Charlie Kirk literally cursed by Etsy wishes paid by Jezebel in an article posted the day before his assassination. Yes, Stephanie confirms this is a spiritual battle between good and evil. I'm not going to go into the details of that Substack, but check it out if you want to. We are really divided, aren't we? This is after we cover this tragedy. Wake Up America tweeted, September 2025 is when America changed forever. That beautiful girl, Iryna, stolen, 23 years of age. Ukrainian immigrant. Now, it doesn't matter if you agree with the war with Ukraine and Russia. We don't care about that. We care about Iryna, a Ukrainian refugee making her way to the US, working in a pizzeria, catching public transport home and not making it, and not even knowing what happened to her at the time. And we want to blame the weapons, but there was no gun used there. It was a madman. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play for you the clip of the madman, the paranoid schizophrenic, confirmed by his relative. Here he is explaining his motives for taking out Iryna, and then we'll get into the Charlie coverage.
So you said something in your body did what?
Nah, the material, put it like this, the material used in my body to stab the lady.
And so she just got stabbed.
Yeah. You know that's not me. I'm talking about just for no reason. But since they did that, now they got to investigate the material in my body exposed to. Since they want to do all that, now they got to investigate.
It's funny because she's from the Ukraine. She's from Russia, and you know they got a war. They had a war going on against the United States. So I'm just trying to understand, out of all people, why her?
It ain't. I don't have nothing. They just lashed out on her. That's what happened. They lashed out on her. Whoever was working the material, they lashed out on her.
Paranoid schizophrenic. It was the material put in his body by the government. How do you punish that, or how are they going to punish that? They talk about death penalty, and we've just learned of another person who was not fit for trial, who was back out there committing violence today. This was Charlie's last post. If we want things to change, it's 100% necessary to politicise the senseless murder of Iryna Zarutska, because it was politics that allowed a savage monster with 14 priors to be free on the streets to kill her. So things have to change. Meanwhile, George Kaki wants to talk about guns. Was Iryna killed by a gun, George? And if you wanted to take out a scholar, lead debater in Charlie Kirk, and you were a coward that wanted to shoot from 200 metres away, wouldn't you have just done something else? What do we have here in Australia, in Victoria? We have machetes. We don't have guns. So you need to take out the perpetrators before they commit their crimes by recognising what's triggering them, whether they be mentally unfit to live in society and need to be put into a padded cell, heaven forbid, to protect us from them and protect themselves from themselves. Or do you just let them float around in society with 14 priors to kill innocent people because that's what your political permissiveness wants you to do, and then to blame those that call it out? And if you use a university and you can't debate because you have indoctrinated science that says that we're safe and effective and that climate change science is settled with a whole of 432 parts out of every million actually carbon dioxide, explain anyone explain to me how going to 532 parts per million is going to heat up the earth. Just explain it with your thermodynamics. And I've seen Jared Rennick do it and get attacked by the usual imbeciles, scientists. You don't know anything about thermodynamics. Well, I do know that 532 parts per million is not going to make the temperature of the earth go from 16.5 degrees average to 20 degrees, where Bill Gates says we won't stop it going up by 3.5 degrees to make it all up. I told you this show was going to be ugly, and here we are. Charlie Kirk, from October 13, 2023. In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. It's unreal, isn't it? 31 years old, at the peak of his powers. Let's play a couple of clips now.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee. His grace uncrowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
It's unbearable.
That he's dead at the age of 31. Which he would have to be if that video was real.
There's no way he survived that. The only good thing is, it had to have happened quickly.
Right. Right.
The way we rationalize absolute life-changing events to try and understand in grief. Let's play Greg Gutfield now.
Yeah, I know that it's somewhat object of mockery to say thoughts and prayers, but thoughts and prayers for his family. And they need it from all of us. And Jesse's right. If they could do this, they are capable of anything. I think that was the message. I believe that was the message It's really hard to radicalize Republicans.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're not the radical type. But if you thought that you were going to shut a movement down, you're going to get a rude awakening. You woke us the fuck up.
And we will.
Didn't take long for the lefties to do what the lefties do. Here's political advisor Matthew Dowd.
But following up on what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hate.
Really? So it's Charlie's fault for debating and winning debates. How does it make you feel? Do you want to be a better debater? Do you want to start your own show? Or do you feel like that all of us are now at risk? I noticed that Carmine Sabia, who I interviewed recently on the 51st State, has shared exactly that sentiment. Carmine posted earlier, when I say we put our lives on the line every day in this business, I'm not kidding. Carmine has about 500,000 followers on YouTube. Now, let's get to Spencer Cox, the Utah governor, as he announces that someone has been taken into custody.
Partners as we work through this case. Now, this is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination. We are celebrating 250 years of the founding of this great nation. That founding document, the Declaration of Independence, that this great experiment on which we embarked together 250 years ago, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. The first one of those is life. And today, a life was taken. Charlie Kirk was first and foremost a husband and a dad to two young children. He was also very much politically involved, and that's why he was here on campus. Charlie believed in the power of free speech and debate to shape ideas and to persuade people. Historically, our university campuses in this nation and here in the state of Utah have been the place where truth and ideas are formulated and debated. And that's what he does. He comes on college campuses and he debates. That is foundational to the formation of our country, to our most basic constitutional rights. And when someone takes the life of a person because of their ideas or their ideals, then that very constitutional foundation is threatened. Now, we have a person of interest in custody. The investigation is ongoing. But I want to make it crystal clear right now, to whoever did this, we will find you. We will try you. And we will hold you accountable to the furthest extent of the law. And I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty here in the state of Utah. Our nation is broken. We've had political assassinations recently in Minnesota. We had an attempted assassination on the governor of Pennsylvania. And we had an attempted assassination on a presidential candidate. And
it really is unbearable today, isn't it? Well, Elon Musk, he chimed in. How about that for a statement? The left is the party of murder. Well, Charlie Kirk, 31, husband, father, great mind, and journalistic legend, gone. Interestingly, Pam Bondi earlier shared this. Parents of school-aged children should never be treated like criminals for speaking at school board meetings. No more. The Justice Department is restoring law and order and returning power to the people we serve. I'm directing the FBI and our Civil Rights Division and all our US attorneys to uphold constitutional rights and parental authority in America's education system. The DOJ stands with America's parents. This is in relation to the trans agenda and thinking that somehow it's okay for educators, schools, people in authority to tell parents that they're going to tell the parents' children that it's okay to mutilate one's body if you feel like it, if you've somehow been programmed to do that by someone else. Because there's no 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old that comes up with that idea themselves, that wakes up one morning and goes, I think I'm in the wrong body and I need to change it. Not just I think I'm in the wrong body, I want to get dressed in something else, but I literally want to go through the process of understanding that science allows me that I can know a thing called hormones and change my body. We know it's crazy. And there it is. And Pam Bondi is deciding that she is not going to go down the pathway of having parents lose their rights to a system of people that think that they know more than the parents. All right, let's go on. This is the ugliest news show of the year. Here is a really interesting email from Anthony Fauci to Greg Focus regarding a Rand Paul tweet. As usual, it says, Greg, as usual, he's full of shit. Mark Meadows curiously had the same response and was upset when I said that New York got things right by finally getting the numbers down and successfully began opening up. I will paste in the note I sent to Mark, and it's regarding the death rates of people in COVID. I do not want to engage in any more of this nonsense, and so please delete this email after you read it. Fauci, still at large in 2025. Fauci. So, Rand Paul, who's been copping a bit of a pasting lately from Donald Trump and other Republicans, a bit like Thomas Massey, he is calling out Fauci, accusing him of directing NIH employees to destroy federal records and conceal information tied to a congressional probe into COVID. Rand Paul is now demanding that Fauci appear before the Senate to answer these actions regarding deleting the email. After you read it, Fauci wrote, Rand Paul, he denied it under oath. These documents are now public, and Fauci will finally testify before Chairman Rand Paul. So Fauci said he didn't delete emails and then gave an order to delete emails. And Fauci lied. And in brackets, people died. Will Fauci finally be held to account? Isn't it funny what takes them out? Back in Australia in the 80s, we had the idea of perverting the course of justice, Lionel Murphy, and the idea of a lie leading to this. This went on for months and months and months before he was disgraced. And that was pretty much the end of Lionel Murphy's career back in the day. But this is where we're at now. You finally catch them lying to you. Documentary evidence proving, delete this. It's where he's going. It's a hard game amongst these characters, most of whom are lawyers in politics or have access to high-priced lawyers like people like Fauci, and they know how they can duck and weave. It's amazing what will take them out, though. All right, let's head back to Australia now. Actually, let's not. Let's give you this headline. This popped up yesterday. Henry Ford vaxxed versus unvaxxed study found vaccinated kids had a 453% more neurodevelopmental disorders, 57% rendered chronically ill. That story, in sworn testimony, attorney Aaron Siri revealed the results of a long-hidden study from the Henry Ford's health system in Detroit, Michigan. It's the largest study of its kind. Over 18,000 people studied. The official study title, Impact of Vaccination on Short-Lived and Long-Term Chronic I'll say that again. Impact of childhood vaccination on short and long-term chronic health outcomes in children, a birth cohort study. The key findings. Compared to unvaccinated children, those who received one or more vaccines had dramatically higher rates of chronic illness, 329% more asthma, 203% more atopic disease, 496% more autoimmune disease, 453% more neurodevelopmental disorders, including 228% more developmental delays, 347% more speech disorders. After 10 years, the bottom line numbers were devastating. 57% of vaccinated children had at least one chronic health condition, often multiple, and only 17% of unvaccinated children had any chronic illness. So, we're fighting for ideals and perfection, and we're human beings, and we can't be idealists, and there is no such thing as perfection. And we have pretended that vaccines have been perfect whilst ignoring the side effects, and those numbers are devastating. 57% of vaccinated children have one or more chronic diseases. And those numbers that are 2 to 5 times more than the unvaccinated. So you can scream polio as much as you want, measles, cold, flu, COVID. But if you can overcome something by being prepared for it, by taking the right preparations and eating the right diet and whatever, you know that your chances of survival. But do you just discount that and say, oh no, that the risk of dying from COVID, 1 in 1,000 if you're under 30 and 1 in 20,000 or 100,000 or 1 million if you're under 10, but that one risk, so the 99.9999% that survive, oh no, that's a risk that I can't take. But 57 out of 100 of you are going to get a chronic disease. If you knew that, would that weigh up a little bit differently? And would that change the way we look at the world? Yesterday, we learned that Sussan Ley has apologised for Jacinta Price's remarks about Indian immigrants. From the ABC, and in short, senior coalition MPs say Sussan Ley made the right call to dump senior Senator Nampijira Price from the front bench. This morning, she gave an apology for the remarks that have caused damage to the coalition's standing among Indian Australians. Coalition MPs say the messy episode has dragged on for too long and the party now needs to move on. They got that idea from John Howard on Sky News the other night. And for all the people that were watching that interview with John Howard and wanted to comment below, John Howard's made the 90-year suppression. John Howard and the guns. I get all that. But politics is not about idealism, and I've spoken about that before. And Russell Broadbent said, you can't operate from the edges. The most you'll ever get is 10% support, which gets you nowhere. You have to start from the centre, and a good leader brings people along with them. That's what Russell Broadbent said. On the very first edition, actually, of the 51st State, you can go back and watch it. John Howard, love him or hate him, and I was probably his biggest detractor, because back when he was Prime Minister, I was a Labor man, if you can believe that. And there was occasion in 2016 that John Howard, I got word, was up at the Tuggerah Westfield campaigning with the local member. And I put on my Bernie Sanders T-shirt and I went up there and managed to get in front of him. And he looked at me and he looked at the shirt and he walked straight up to me and he says, Bernie, I like some of Bernie's stuff. And I shook John Howard's hand. I got a photograph with John Howard. I didn't even like the guy. But it was impossible not to understand that he operates at a very different level. A very different level. And what he achieved the other night on Sky News with Sherry Markson was, for the first time, was to bring across a lot of people that have been going along to get along with the climate change agenda simply because of all the bad weather. It must be climate change. And saying, I don't believe it. I just don't buy into that narrative, and that makes me a climate change agnostic. I don't believe that if we don't achieve net zero targets, that it's going to be catastrophic. I'm not convinced. That's what he said. What is wrong with that? That what he said, because it was John Howard, you dismiss it? But if John Howard can bring across 10% of the population off that remark alone to walk back climate change, that's more than all of us have achieved in 10 years, all of us in the independent media space. Now, that's not to take away from the work that we've done, the bloody hard work that we do. And to make this show every day for you takes me 5.5 to 6 hours every day. Every day. And then I do the interviews as well. So that's a lot of work to do and still have to go to work to get paid to put food on the table and keep the wolves from the door. So it's a community service. So I'm very grateful when John Howard gets up there, despite the fact that I wasn't a fan. But I respect the fact that he was the Prime Minister for 11 years and he got up and he said that against the globalist agenda. If you are anti-climate change, you are anti the globalist agenda. It's as simple as that. So you have to take that. Now, there are people that want, and I did for a time, wanted Mark Latham to join the People First Party. I thought it would have been a great idea to bring the Independent in and give it a branding. But you wouldn't bring Mark Latham into a political party today. Not after what we've learnt with the Natalie Matthews story. It's not possible. It doesn't represent the values. So there's a guy that you want to take and you can't. But Mark Latham's not getting the cut through that John Howard got the other night. So that's what I want to say about it. Now, love me or hate me or cancel the subscription and whatever you want to do, guys. But we are trying to change minds to move the needle in the direction of freedom, getting the government off our back, opportunity for our children, prosperity for all, and abundance. That's what I'm fighting for and always, always, always have and always will. And now, with the resolve of Charlie Kirk being stolen from us, it strengthens that resolve, but it also brings with it an enormous amount of caution. And on Saturday, there will be a very big rally in the capital cities and other places around Australia protesting against government corruption. And there'll be coverage and there'll be all the usual stuff and all the competition between independent media people vying for your attention. Some will say the right things and some won't, and there will be many people getting up on stage delivering the same old speeches. And there's no cut through. And the exercise on August 31 was designed to tar us all as Nazis. And now Thomas Sowell's locked up. And this one will be different. But how are we going to cut through? And let's hope that Iryna and Charlie's deaths are not in vain. And that the mainstream media will have to finally capitulate or apologise. I know I can hear you laughing. And try and rectify the situation. And if not, there are tens of thousands of independent media journalists like yours truly that are happy to step into that role. And I tell you what, with the right resources, the right infrastructure, London to a brick, people like myself will easily stand into those roles, fight the good fight, ask the right questions, and turn the great Queen Mary around into the right direction. Now, I got attacked this week by Michael, what was his name? Ginsburg, telling me that I'm a Trumpaholic or something, and that Trump's meeting with Bill Gates meant that Trump was in it with Bill Gates. Okay, Michael, whatever. He also accused Alex Antic of being a wood duck and Ralph Babette and all the others, and Malcolm Roberts. But Michael knows best. So all the black pilling aside, and that the world's going to end, and that's what we're here today to talk about, that Charlie Kirk was assassinated because he challenged the orthodoxy that said that climate change is going to kill us all unless we stop eating, drinking, moving, working, and doing anything and live a life of inertia. Or we'll all die. So they killed him instead. That's the logic that we live in. We must be at the end game or very, very close to it. And the moment that a big name is in handcuffs after what we've seen with the killing that's going on, there will be a change and a turnaround. The pieces are finally falling into place. Certainly not your Walter Cronkite, but what I am is just another concerned Australian. I want to pay special tribute to all of the independent journalists out there that work today. And in particular, my friend, Bruce Snyder, who is an absolute machine at Mindfix TV, works 18 hours a day, virtually 7 days a week, to put together his news aggregation and coverage and shows. And I know, Bruce, you did it as tough as anyone today, and full marks to you, because you really are one of our Walter Cronkites. Thanks, everyone. If you can leave a like or a comment or tell me why you're staying or why you're going, I really appreciate it. And maybe if you got this far, you could just share it, please. If we can get 100 shares a day, we'll get 10,000 views, and that'll get us to 1,000 shares and 100,000 views, and 10,000 shares will get us to 1 million. And then we are the news now. Thank you.